and I think I'm done with this interview.
Wait, well, let me just show you the contract, if I could. Mr. Roberts, wait. It says here, right in the contract, that the verification is supposed to be done by DBT, that you paid them $4 million. Don't you, it could look to other people that you paid $4 million to purchase this election for the Republican Party. Mr. Roberts?
Feel the darkness coming over, see how it begins. Come with me into the world of God.
I know you think they stole a 2000 election, and they probably stole 2004. Well, here's the bad news. In this special Link TV investigation, we've uncovered that they've already taken 2008, and it's months before November. And we've got the evidence in our election files upstairs in the office. Come on.
My name is Greg Palast. I'm an investigative reporter. I do that for BBC television out of London. And in November 2000, I'm in my living room watching the returns from my United States of America. And I see one black face after another coming before the television cameras saying, I can't vote. My name wasn't on the voter registry. I'm thinking maybe that there's some type of computer program in Florida that can single out black voters and erase their names from the voter rolls. And in a couple of weeks, got my hands on this, the computer program. Now, take a look at the report. They wouldn't show you on U.S. television.
On November 6th, after all the votes were cast, statisticians called Florida for gore.
It's almost 5:30 a.m. Texas time, and George W. Bush is still asleep, and I'm still speaking to people here in Florida.
Most voters in the state told exit polls they voted for Al Gore, but the Bush family remained strangely confident. Now, why did George W. grin and ignore the exit polls?
I don't believe that some of these states that they've called, like Florida, I just don't believe that we've got enough evidence to be able to call the state. We're doing better than we thought, and but I feel fine.
But what made George feel good made America feel ill. The vote count was a shambles. Machines failed, Chads fell, and thousands of ballots piled up. The public was fed up.
I think they should just re-elect, start it all over again. Cancel the whole deal that's went on now, and let's vote again.
The race turned on just dozens of votes, yet incredibly, by the stroke of a pen, Katherine Harris orders a halt to the ballot count. In all, 179,855 ballots were never counted. And here's the key. More than half of those not counted were cast by black voters. In fact, in Florida, an old Jim Crow segregation state, the nasty little secret of Jeb Bush's government is that, according to this U.S. Civil Rights Commission report, a black person is 1,000% more likely to have their ballot thrown out, not counted, than a white voter. And something else seemed crooked. Thousands of black voters, when they showed up to vote, were turned away because they were listed on voter registers as convicted criminals. But were they? I met with Willie Steen. Like 94,000 others, he'd been tagged a criminal. He was not allowed to vote in Florida because Jeb's elections officials said he was a felon.
So Willie, fess up. Are you a criminal?
No. No criminal at all. Never been convicted of any crime.
But they had you down as a felon.
Yes, they did, but not me. Wrong person. I've never been arrested in my life, you know. Was in the military for 4 years. Got out of the military, been in the medical field ever since. I mean, you can't even work for a hospital being a convicted felon. And I was in the Persian Gulf War in '91. Fought in the war, so, you know, it's pretty screwed up how they did me, but what can I say?
Tampa Elections Supervisor Pam Iorio.
If you, in error, remove even one person from the voter rolls,
it's of tremendous significance. We found errors. We were very uncomfortable with the matches on the list. The matches that the state considered a match was not something that we necessarily considered a match. Sometimes the race and even the gender was not a match. We were not comfortable.
How did you feel when they said you're a criminal?
Well, for one, I was upset, you know. I was ashamed, you know, with 40 people around, and it made me feel real bad. And I'm just hoping that I get a letter stating, hey, you can vote again, Willie.
But Harris never sent the letter, although the state admits Willie is innocent.
I really feel that it was bad, you know, for African Americans, but hey, you know, what can we do sometimes? You know, what can we do?
Using some legal snooping techniques, I was able to get into Florida's computers and cracked open the files that named Willie Steen and other black voters as criminals. From Catherine Harris's elections office, I decoded this list of 57,000 names of convicts matched to Florida voters.
Thomas Alvin Cooper is convicted in Ohio. He's a white guy. Thomas Cooper of Florida loses his vote. He's a black guy, and he's listed for a date of conviction of his felony, January 30th, 2007. All it is people who have names similar to someone who's been convicted somewhere in the United States of a crime. 95% of them are completely innocent, should never have lost their vote.
Here's William Osteen, matched to Willie Steen of Florida.
Over half of them are black. Almost every black person voted for Al Gore.
Altogether, 94,000 voters were named as felons. Of these, 95% are innocent. And although black people make up only 13% of Florida's population, more than half the scrub list, 54%, were African American. I flew to the state capitol, to Governor Jeb Bush's office tower, to find out who came up with this fake felon list that elected our president.
All those innocent black voters, thousands who lost their vote. Was it just a coincidence?
Not according to this document, which fell into my hands, which proves that the election was signed, sealed, and delivered long before any ballot was cast. The state hired a company called DBT Choice Point. This document, marked confidential and secret, indicates that the company was paid millions to create lists of criminals who should be barred from voting, and then verify that those lists were correct. But Florida state officials told Choice Point not to bother verifying the names, despite Choice Point warnings that it could mean thousands of innocent people would end up losing their vote.
A couple weeks after the election, Al Gore's still in the race. CBS Nightly News with Dan Rather calls me up at BBC and says, Greg, we'd love a piece of this story. What else do you have? I said, you know what I found out? Jeb Bush, his office directly wrote a letter to remove 50,000 legal voters from the voter rolls, most of them black, almost all of them Democrats. I said, get that letter. You've got a story. They said, thanks. A day went by and no report on CBS. A week went by and no report on CBS. I finally called up CBS. I said, what happened to the story of Jeb Bush and his letter? And they said, sorry, Greg, your story doesn't stand up. I said, really? They said, yeah, the letter doesn't exist. I said, wow, how did you find that out? They said, well, we called Jeb Bush's office, and he said it didn't exist. I said, oh. So I called Catherine Harris's office, and I said, you know, Catherine Harris told me about a letter she received from Governor Jeb Bush telling her to remove 50,000 voters from the voter rolls. I know she would want me to have that letter. Could you send it to me? And 10 minutes later, I got this in my fax machine.